G'day ladies and gentlemen, ScottyD here from the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome into the next installment in our series, How to Play Warhammer 40,000, 10th edition. Alrighty everyone, now today's video is the next installment in our How to Play Warhammer 40,000 10th edition series, where we're continuing to go through the core mechanics of 10th edition Warhammer 40k, the different ways that you can play the game that we've already covered, and in today's video we're going to be looking at how to build 10th edition army lists. Army lists in 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000 work very differently compared to 9th edition Warhammer 40k. However, it's not too different to Arcs of Omen, which was the back end of 9th edition before we transitioned into 10th. Firstly, there is only the one method for building an army list compared to 9th edition, where you could create either an unbound or a battle forged army list, and so every army list that you play in Warhammer 40,000 now has to use this method of list building. Now, this allows things to be quite simple compared to the previous editions from 8th and 9th, especially when you consider the changes to points and the removal of power level at the same time, really simplifying the army construction method. And we'll also get into why it is so much more simpler compared to previous editions in future installments in this series as well. So to start off with, for building an army list, you first determine the points level that you're wanting to play with your opponent. So you could say, I want to play 1,000 points, or you could say, I want to play 2,000. You could even play 3,000 if you want to. And outside of combat patrol, those are actually the three different common points levels. Incursion, which is your 1,000 points per side of a game, and should take about 2 hours to play. You've got Strike Force, which is 2,000 points per side and should take up to about 3 hours to play a game. And then you've got Onslaught, which is 3,000 points per side, which means you could take up to 4 hours to play that game as well. Now, I will say that there is absolutely nothing stopping you from playing games at different point sizes outside of the ones mentioned here. You could play a game at 750 points or at 1,500 points, or any other possible points levels you wish to do so with your opponent. After you've sorted out the points levels you're wanting to play, next you pick your army faction. Your army faction is the range of models that you're wanting to play with, whether that's going to be Space Marines or Necrons or Chaos Space Marines, Chaos Demons, or any other faction in the game of Warhammer 40,000 basically. Once you've got your chosen faction, you then select the detachment rules that you are wanting to use for your army for the game. Now currently we have actually just seen the previews of the Tyranid Codex and the Space Marine Codex, and outside of the indexes, every army looks as though they're going to be getting 6 different detachments with their own unique rules, their own unique enhancements and stratagems to go along with them as well. So that is where the variety of choice is going to be coming in with the codexes, rather than in the sub-factions. For example, with Space Marines, you can have the 6 different detachments, rather than going, say, a build for Blood Angels or Ultramarines and having different chapter traits for each of those. So it is going to be expanded over time, and as more codexes get them, the more detachments that different armies are going to have available to them. So once you have picked your detachment rules that you're wanting to go with, you start picking the units that you wish to field in your army. Now, your army has to contain at least one character unit to begin with, and you can then add more units from there following these conditions. The unit has the faction keyword that you choose for your army. So if you're taking Space Marines, they usually have to have the Adeptus Astartes keyword. You have to have enough points remaining in your army list to field them, and that your army doesn't already contain 3 units of the same data card, or if they are a battle line or dedicated transport, 6 units of the same data card for that unit instead. Now, every data card used in the game will have at least one faction keyword on it, and there are some rare instances where a data card will have 2 faction keywords on it. These will often be for named characters such as Rabu Gilliman, or you could look at Ironfather Ferios for Iron Hands, and in those examples they've got the Adeptus Astartes faction keyword, and then for Gilliman he's got the Ultramarine faction keyword, for Ferios he's got the Iron Hands faction keyword. Now, if a data card has got a second keyword, you can only include units in your army that have either not got that second faction keyword, or that have got the same faction keyword as that first character you've taken. So, for example, you can't take Dante, who is a Blood Angels faction keyword, in the same army list as you would as Reboot Guilliman, because he's got the Ultramarines faction keyword, so that you can't really mix and match in that sense. Now, you can choose to take up to 3 enhancements out of the enhancements you have available for your detachment in your army list and pay the points for taking them, which these enhancements can only be given to character models. A unit can only ever have 1 enhancement for it, and each enhancement can only ever be taken once in your army list. Now, if your army contains any character keywords with the Epic Hero keyword, those characters can't be given any enhancements at all, and you cannot include multiples of the same Epic Hero in your army. So you can only take them once. So you can't have multiple Reboot Guillimans in your list running around, for example. After you've put together your army list to the desired points level you're wanting to play, then you need to pick your Warlord, which is just one of the characters that you've got in your list that, unlike previous editions, they don't really get any benefits as of yet, so we're not sure if they're going to in the future, but you know, it may be relevant if you're playing a Crusade game and such as well. And that's it. You've now got an army list that is ready to go to be fielded in your games of Warhammer 40,000. So when you actually compare this army construction method to how previous editions work, it's actually a lot simpler from 9th edition and a lot more akin to army list building using power level than points. So to actually show you what an army list will look like, we're going to chuck one up on the screen right next to me as well. I'm going to stand to the side so it can come down with a bit of space to show you an example of what a 1500 point Necron army list looks like. So first, as we say, on your army list, you denote your characters, and these are, in my list, I've got an Overlord with a Void Scythe and Resurrection Orb, and he's got the Hyper Material Ablator enhancement coming to 105 points. This Overlord is also my Warlord. I've then got 2 Lords, just generic Necron Lords with Resurrection Orbs for 65 points each, and then I've got a Scorpek Lord with the Veil of Darkness enhancement coming in at 135 points total. Second, you then list your battle line units. So I've taken 2 units of 20 Necron Warriors with Gorse Flayers at 240 points each. Then on your list, after you do your battle line, you then do all your other non-battle line units. So the first unit we've got is 10 Lich Guard with Hyperphase Swords and Dispersion Shields coming in at 190 points. We've then got 6 Scorpek Destroyers for 220 points, a single Canoptic Reanimator at 95 points, and then 3 units of 3 Canoptic Scarab Swarms coming in at 40 points each. Now, we don't have this on our current list, but the last thing that you would ever put at the bottom of your list would be any allied units that you're taking in your army list. However, I do not have any in my army list to be taken for my Necrons. So the total of this list does come to 1,480 points, so just under that 1,500 mark, but as we talked about in the points video, this is kind of the common window, around 50-ish points you may have left over. So that about covers it for how to go through constructed army lists. Now, of course, we will talk about allied units in further detail in a future video and kind of explain how that works as well for you guys, so you can get a good understanding for how to include those in an army list. We just want to keep this video a bit simpler and more confined to just putting together an army list without those allied units to start off with. Alrighty everyone, well that is going to be it for this video, looking at how to build a 10th edition army list. Now I hope that this really does help you go through your list building, and you know, it is incredibly simplified compared to 9th edition. It is not as complex. That's why it's only the 1 video instead of the 2 that we had previously done. And so it's really going to make things a lot easier when you're wanting to put together army lists. Now, there are a few limitations that when we talked about points, you can only take units of fixed values and such as well. That does help. And there are a few other things that we'll talk about in the future that does help simplify the list building process as well. But if you did enjoy this video, ladies and gentlemen, why don't you hit the like button? And if you have any thoughts on 10th edition list building that you want to share, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you do want to catch more of this series of how to play Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, so you'll not only be able to notify when we release more videos in this series, but you'll also know when we release more content on the ATWN from tournament games to from spruited tabletop videos to tournament previews and such as well. And if you do want to ever ask any questions live, feel free to come over to our Twitch channel, where I personally do hobby streams twice a week on a Monday and Friday night, with some intermittent streams throughout the week at times as well, depending on the schedule. We've also got the tournaments that we will cover on the weekends as well. And you can ask questions in chat when we are doing those hobbying sessions. I'm always happy to help new hobbyists understand the hobby and understand painting and list building and playing the game as well, answering rules questions and such throughout those streams. Always happy to help people come to terms and get a grip with the current game of 10th edition Warhammer 40,000. But ladies and gentlemen, I thank each and every one of you for watching this video, and we'll catch you in the next one.